Welcome back to Pod Maverick After Dark. I am Kirk Henderson. You are joining me for a preseason episode of Mavs Party. Yeah, the game doesn't really count, but we're going to celebrate anyways because it's been a long time since we had a chance to celebrate. For those of you who are new or don't remember, in the YouTube stream, I have posted a link to StreamYard.com. You click on that from your phone, from your computer, from wherever you are. You can put you in a waiting room where you can then hang out and then join me up here and we can talk about anything. I've got one of our most loyal listeners already hanging out. His name is Brian. He has been hanging out with us on the show for, I don't know, many years now. Really looking forward to talking to him after several months away from the game. So please, if you've got takes, you got thoughts, you got anything you want to come talk about, click into that StreamYard link. We will hang out for a little while. Oh man, Jared's right. Mavs Party after a loss. See, I'm really off my game. I guess I don't really want to do a group therapy. I'm not sad. I'm excited basketball's back. We're gonna go with Mavs Party. Okay, it's a Derek Lively party. We're all here to hang out. So consider clicking in and joining, hanging out for a little while. We'll see if we can enjoy ourselves a little bit. Brian, welcome back to the show. It's been a long time. Good to see you.
Kirk, a Mavs basketball-like substance has returned to my life.
That was a basketball game. Fuck that. Like that was an actual basketball game. That wasn't,
wasn't it though?
It's a real game, man.
Like all of our primary ball handlers just gone. That's so odd for Luka and Kyrie to both be gone and me to be like not worried about who's going to dribble. For the first 4 minutes I was. But then after that, after Hardy like settled down and got off the ball a little bit more, and Spencer was doing most of the ball handling, but shooting terribly, but still spreading the ball around. I was like, okay, this looks like a basketball team without our stars and our star free agency addition. So this is new to me. I don't know how to feel about this. Like we have like a center in there, and our starting center isn't in there. We have guys who like theoretically can shoot, spacing the floor.
So I talked about this with Iztok briefly. Iztok Franco, those of you who haven't, consider going and subscribing to his Substack dig in basketball at substack.com. And I refer to it as Jason Kidd, instead of trying to patch holes, now has the ability to solve problems. And I'm really excited about that because, like, let's be honest here. Let's just dust this off. There's a really high likelihood that Klay Thompson can't guard a stationary object. Okay? I'm okay with that. I don't really care because you know what? You're going to have to keep up with the Mavericks scoring 130 points if the Mavericks decide to do that. Watching this team tonight, some of the guys like Quentin Grimes is going to eat.
Dude, he is so much better than Josh Green.
So much better.
I hate to make it like a comparison thing because I love Josh and I do genuinely wish him well. But dude, that lefty floater he hit over the center, like when he got trapped in like basically at the elbow with the ball and didn't have an outlet to pass, like the drives, the passing on the move, the shot wasn't falling, but he hit 2 threes, I think, like, and it's going to fall eventually.
Well, can we just kind of go through the guys here? Who are the guys on the Mavericks that can catch fire? Like really, truly, you're kind of like you find them. It's NBA Jam. It's pickup basketball. Where you're like, we're finding that guy the ball. So we got Luka, Kyrie, Klay. Give me who else you got that you really think like qualifies for that.
Dude,
sorry, this guy in the chat says Gortman.
Big Gort for sure. That's 4. Big Gort, Hardy.
Okay. Hardy's that guy for you.
Hardy's on the list now. I think he's on the list because when everything stopped working and he looked a bit frazzled and he was trying to do a bit too much ball handling, he said, you know what? I'm just going to fall back. I'm going to play within myself. I will wait till the ball finds me and I am open and I'm going to attack off the catch. And what did he do? Splash, 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 and immediately started being able to create the others because the defense was looking at him now like, oh, you can actually make something happen that we have to pay attention to. So, okay, we're going to guard you now.
Okay.
And that made it easy for his teammates. Hardy, Grimes, I would say that makes 5.
Do you count PJ? I mean, Jared in the chat
PJ?
says, he had a 40-point game on him, and I think he got to.
Look, man, he put 40 on OKC in the regular season just off threes, so I feel like you've got to. And not to mention what he did to him in the playoffs. Yeah.
Spencer.
PJ, 6. Spencer, if he gets rolling on a good
Makes me
night,
sick.
can carry you for a quarter. Yeah, man. Look, brother. This was not Brother Spencer's best night. Yeah, because I was legit. I was tweeting. I was like, "Hey, man, Big Gore. As soon as Dante Exum get back, brother, we can." Which, by the way, he might be on the list too. If you consider like some of the games he had last year, like the Houston game, the LA game where he hit 7. Probably not. That's a little wish casting, but yeah, dude. Like we have so many guys that can just, if you're not paying attention to them, or if the Stars are having an off night, all it takes is 2 good possessions in a row, and next thing you know, they've got like 4 threes in 10 minutes.
That's what I'm thinking of, because that's one thing Luka is actually quite good at, is he wants to find the hot hand. Mm-hmm. And I've talked about this going on like 6 years now. Everybody who thinks Luka wants to score first doesn't know what Luka likes. He is the first 34 points a game last year, while probably not really wanting to shoot the ball as many times as he did. He would rather get that cool assist. He would rather get the assist. I truly believe that. And now they've really hypercharged this team with shooters to give him that ability.
Shooters and vertical targets, man. Like people talk about losing the vertical gravity that Derek Jones Jr. gave us, like on those 45 cuts and offensive rebounds guy, and then from like the wing or whatever.
Cut?
It's like from like the wing, right?
Grant
like
Access said that shit. When Grant Access said that shit, whenever John Morant hurt himself, he's like, he hurt himself on a 45 cut. So I sent him a text and I'm like, dude, this is really nerdy.
Yeah, like, well, he was like driving. I don't know if I called it.
I know what it is, but it made me laugh. Yeah.
Yeah. But
you made a great 45 cut. High five.
Yeah, no, like calling that out, like unless it's like specifically what someone did, like someone cutting off ball. Yeah, that's super. I wouldn't do that. But Derek was really good at that. Mm-hmm. That's where he got a lot of points last year. And I don't know. I feel like with still having PJ on the wings, I feel like we're not missing that as much, because PJ is a real lob threat too.
Oh my God. He did a lot of that last year. He kind of went and got planted over there.
No, you remember the first OKC game? His first bucket was off. I think it was like a screen, and he came off the backside. Luka was on the strong side with the ball. Nobody was watching PJ. And I think it was like one of their small guards that had to try and like contest him at the rim. He just put him in the Earth's crust. Like, we're going to see a lot more of that than we saw last season, because Derek isn't there to do it. So PJ is going to get a lot more opportunity because they're paying attention to Clay in the opposite corner. Dude, there's just so much on this team. And like to your point about like how Luka would much prefer to get off the ball and find the hot hand and have fun being an assist guy. Like the name that makes me think of is that dude Prepelic on the Slovenian national team. If you've seen how they play together, if you watch, like especially when Goran was still playing too, you watched how he's got Goran on like the weak side taking the attention of the defense, how often he would drive and just find that Prepelic dude in the corner and just let him just fling it 13 times a game, and he was loving every second of it. Like that's who he is at his core. That's where like how SJ said that she couldn't really see Luka averaging any more than like 10 and a half, 11 assists a game this season. I kind of disagree. I feel like if everything's clicking, Luka's gonna want to get like his 29, 30 or whatever, but he's more than willing to step back if somebody else is cooking, especially if it's Kyrie and Clay, and just let them rock out and rack up 13, 14, 15 assists, a couple times a week.
Sure.
So this team just has so much, and people don't understand. We are not that far removed from having so little.
Yeah, well, that's
unbelievable, man.
That's a really good way to phrase it, because a couple of things go a different way, and this feels different. We've talked for years about how the Mavericks have had to play guys up a position or two in the rotation. And right now, I have no idea what the rotation is. Like, we got Long Live Organic in the chat said to me a second ago, I really think, Hardy's going to be a big player this year. The fact of the matter is, when you go through and list guys out, I don't know, like, who's going to get sacrificed at first. And what I honestly think is that because the season's so long and the Mavericks do have some older guys, there's going to be an opportunity for just about every one of, like, the top 12 guys to get real minutes. They might not play 65 games. We're not going to have an Oklahoma City, type roster last year where you go check out their minutes distribution. They had 9 guys that played 70 games. We're going to have 12 guys that play 55 to 65 games.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that works out for the best because, we didn't talk about this because I didn't like making the excuse in the playoffs. I got really like kind of losing I'm like a Luka fanboy as much as anyone, but like I don't want to talk about how Luka's hurt in the process. Like it feels like excuse making.
Mm-hmm.
But like Luka was hurt and Luka's been hurt in his 2 playoff runs. Could we get him healthy and see what the shit he can do then? Like that's kind of what I want. That's where all this is building towards.
Dude, him healthy, Kyrie healthy, not even having to be concerned about can Maxey come back and give us 15 minutes because now he gets to be the backup which is still it's still crazy to me that they went out and got a forward that made him like and then went in free agency and got a guy that can spell him minutes at the 4 where if we don't want to play Maxey on a certain night or if the matchup doesn't look good, he can run out there for 3-4 minutes and kid call him back to the bench and be totally fine with it with Najee. Like the things that they did this summer, what Nico did this summer, what he pulled off in turning Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green, and who was the third? Derrick Jones Jr. into Clay, Najee, Grimes. That is the culmination of like 3 to 4 years of Mavs fandom trade machining and like pining and begging for them to go and get real utility wings and real shooters and real play finishers, right?
For the last several off season or preseasons, I throw together these kind of round table type things from our staff. And I went and looked and wrote down all the questions I've asked in years past. And one of the things from last year was like, which Dallas Mavericks is most likely to be traded? I'm not going to do that one this year. The Mavericks
I don't want anybody touching on this team right now.
Right now, yeah, which is crazy. I mean, and I know we're all kind of high on our own supply right now, but you could, like, I had sort of thoughts about certain guys heading into the season last year, and it's just you look into this, and the Mavericks had made trades at 7 straight trade deadlines. It's wild. Like they've all like the Redick move is a good example. A whole bunch of small moves, but they've made moves for like 7 straight deadlines, and projecting this far out, I don't see it happening because I'm just looking at this guy and going, number one, what would be available? Number 2, where do I think they would need to upgrade? Like I'm trying not to be obtuse here without being like, that's why I don't understand why the Mavericks are 49.5 on the over-under.
And here, and now we're getting to the crux. I want to like, dude, we returned all but 26 minutes of 26 planned minutes of a finals team and then went in the offseason and got significant upgrades at multiple positions. Added a bunch of depth in places where we were sorely lacking, in places where that depth lacking showed in the finals against Boston with our lack of shooting, our lack of guard play, our lack of dynamism on the wing, right? Like we shored a lot of those holes up. And it's like, yeah, we want to see if you guys are going to get back to 50 games like you did last year when you spent all the way up to like halfway through January running out skeleton crews. It's like, really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's
crazy to me. And I'm looking for, one of and this is kind of a more, I would hope that our online fan community between, there's lots of different good people out there. There's Mavs Digest, there's TGK.
Yeah, shout out TGK.
And all, but there's SJ and Dwight and so many different people that are doing different things out there. I want to give love to all the different people that are out there doing stuff. Hard work. I would hope. I was going somewhere with this. My brain just leaves the station.
It happens to me too.
I know what I was going to say. I would hope that because we have such an active community that we don't give a shit what people who don't watch this team think. I've never understood. Maybe when I was in my 20s, wanting to have attention paid to me or the thing that I like. But attention is bad. I would rather be the team that walks quietly and carries a big fucking stick, walks in the playoffs and dunks on people. Dunks and dunks and dunks the way they did last year. So it's like, as we kind of go through this season, I don't really want to, it's so easy for sites like mine, Mavs Moneyball, Dallas Basketball, stuff Dalton does to get like clickbait, write articles where it's like Stephen A. Smith says such and such. I'm going to try to stay away from that shit because I don't care.
Yeah, it's not that stuff. That's not worth it. Yeah,
This is a great line. Why be the Cowboys when we can be the Mavs? Leo,
exactly.
Good line, man.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, Cowboys. Yeah, man. It's just we went into last playoffs and that team backed up so much shit that we were talking all season long. Don't let this team get healthy, especially after the trades. Don't let this team get healthy. You don't want to see us. Don't see us when we're fully healthy. The only dampener really on that was Luka being hurt through the first portion of it, and then Kyrie's fizzle act towards the very end. But dude, everything up to the finals, they checked every single box you could have possibly asked, and then some. They went through. They knocked off the old dragon that used to terrorize us. They ran through the next it team that everybody was championing. They ran through the next it player that everybody was talking about, putting up for next year's MVP, saying he was better than Jason Tatum before he'd made an NBA Finals or anything. Dude, they did so much narrative work in one playoff run.
Yep.
It is so and like I hate like reducing everything to narratives, but they did so much narrative work. Like this MVP is going to come down to Luka Doncic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't think anybody else is going to get close unless there's a huge surprise. It's the NBA, there could be, but it is going to be those two neck and neck all the way down. And I am super excited to watch this race play out because I think we've got a team that can really run for it.
That's what I like to hear, man. Brian, you've kept us humming here for 15 minutes. I normally don't like to take up this much of your time, but I appreciate you getting us going.
Hey, dude, I'm just glad to be back on, man.
So what I'm thinking is we're probably going to do Thursday night for sure. I'm not doing one Monday night when they play the Clippers at 9:30. Come on.
No,
they're playing in law. I don't want to do that then. But we got a long season ahead of us. Everybody look ahead. So I'm going to bring up Leo, and then I got my man Glenn down there in the chat. Looking forward to this. So Brian, we'll talk soon. Thanks so much for hanging out.
Yes, sir. Much love. Peace, everybody.
While farmers work hard to grow the best crop, their Iowa Corn Checkoff investments are working to foster industry connections to help companies replace petroleum with corn. Additional research is finding even more uses for corn and discovering new ways and practices to help farmers get the most out of their crop. The Iowa Corn Checkoff, working hard for Iowa's corn farmers. Go to iowacorn.org to learn more.
All right, coming up is Leo. What's going on, Leo? What do you got for us?
Hello, the mic sounding good?
You sound great.
All right. Mr. Kirk, nice to see you. It's been a minute. Can you explain to me what a coaching consultant is?
Pretty sure what this allows, what's his name? Why is my brain off?
Vogel.
This allows Frank Vogel to continue to keep getting his checks from the Suns while helping the Mavs. Like, think about it like almost like a non-compete kind of deal, where it's like I'm not positive on this, but this is why I'm sure he's a consultant versus an actual like paid coach on the Mavericks staff, because this allows him to collect both checks. That's my strong inclination.
We're petty this year. I love that.
Sure, we should be. People don't believe in these Mavericks.
Well, I was going to ask that because like the main difference everyone always seems to bring up, whether it be big talking points or even like a podcast that's got younger people like numbers on the board, everyone always brings up DJJ, and I love DJJ, but he played okay defense until we made the trade moves that allowed him the flexibility to like be a point of attack defender, which I still don't know what that means. Like,
he guards the ball. He guards the guy who has the ball the most.
So is it that hard to kind of think, well, we have Najee in the back, and we have really big players on this team? Because if you think about the starting lineup, if it is going to be Clay, he's what, 6'6", 6'7"?
There's just guys that take up space. It's crazy.
And that feels like enough whenever you have Derek Lively as your backcourt defending and everything.
Yep.
Do any of your media friends or the people you talk to league wide have a specific reason why they don't believe in the Mavs, or have you not asked them yet?
I mean, I think there's an element of when you don't string together more than 20 games in the regular season looking good, what do you want to call it? It's like past performance is one of the things that can most help predict future outcomes. And the Mavericks under Jason Kidd have played like shit. And Followell actually kind of hit on this where he didn't blame any one thing, but I'm just going to say the Mavericks have played bad basketball in late November, December, and January in every single one of Kidd's seasons, every single one. And so it depresses their overall record, and then they play unbelievable basketball February, March, April. And so it's you just need to be able, like, consistency is often the biggest predictor of NBA success. It's point differential. Like the 2011 Mavs had an unbelievable point differential, and they just had a 9-game losing streak whenever 2 of their best players got hurt at the worst time. Otherwise, they should have been predicted to be a juggernaut. These Mavericks have just some things that I'm not sure that there's endorsement or believability. Now, if they called the game the way they called it from February on last year, in terms of allowing more physicality, the Mavericks have a big step. They have a lot of things working for them in that regard, because the physical defense is what allowed them to start just blanking teams.
Okay. But if I remember correctly, and I guess people who have to focus on every team in the league won't notice this, but both seasons where we've gone far in the playoffs, our start of a season's ended up with really bad injuries at the start of the year. Luka got hurt in that 2021 season and missed about a month and came back right as JB and KP were cooking. And then this last year, Kyrie was out for 10 straight games, 12 straight games.
And Luka was too. I mean, Luka missed it. Like, Kyrie played some of the best basketball of his career during a 5-game stretch when Luka was out. Do you remember this? He averaged like 35 points a game. So I mean, but that's where what they have to do is they have to play at least 500 basketball during those stretches. If you know that they're going to happen, you need to find, and that's what this team is built for, in my opinion.
Okay. Just 2 more questions. Do you know what's going on with the Mavs streaming deal? I don't think I've seen anything online telling us where we can stream their games.
I don't off the top of my head. Did you have problems watching the game tonight?
Yeah, until I realized I can just turn my phone I turned my phone's browser into
that was big. There's enough stuff where it's just like, unless you're technologically, functional, there's enough, you got to turn off ad blockers, you got to get out of incognito mode. Like, there's this sort of, and Child of Jehovah says local television. Yeah, you can actually go to Best Buy if you're in Dallas. I would actually go to Best Buy if you don't have cable and get a TV antenna. They're not very expensive, and that's how you can broadcast a lot of the local games.
Well, I was going to say, if anyone has like a lot of TVs in their house and they don't want to buy a bunch of TV antennas, there's a TV antenna adapter you can buy that sets it up via Wi-Fi. So anytime you're around. Exactly. So any TV that's connected to the Wi-Fi can just pop onto the local TV reception, which is really nice. And I was going to see if I could ask you a favor. You seem to talk a lot to the Slovenian fans. Can you ask them who their favorite player is on the Mavs that's not Luka?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because I don't know if there's a difference between what they would value as a player versus what we value as players.
Sure, man, that's a good one. I'll hit me up after this. Send me a DM and I'll put it on my Twitter feed. That's a good question.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kirk.
All right.
Have a good day,
man. Talk good. Have a good night. All right, coming up next, my friend Glenn. I haven't seen Glenn in a while. Glenn, what's going on, man?
What's happening, man?
Good to see you. What are you doing tonight?
I'm actually got to go into my apartment complex because I went to go get food because I was super depressed because I'm one of those technological guys who could not figure out how to get the game on my television, so I had to listen to the brush.
It took me a solid 15 minutes, man. So
I was so aggravated, bro. So aggravated. But I will tell you, I went to Fan Jam, and I'm going to tell you, man, I don't think I knew what we were getting into when we got Najee Marshall.
Okay.
Because
you know what his nickname is?
The Knife.
I love that. My son is now obsessed. He's like, that's cool.
And the reason why
I get that.
They said the reason why Willie Green gave him that nickname is because he's like a Swiss Army knife. He can do a little bit of everything, which God bless, because that makes us so multi-dimensional. I saw him on Fan Jam, and I don't know if you got a chance to see any Fan Jam, but that he can score in a multitude of ways. He can ball handle in a way that I wouldn't think most wings could ball handle, and he has great vision. So good we have him for 3 years, and he's still a relatively young guy. So I'm impressed with that. I'm impressed with Quentin Grimes' confidence.
He's so damn handsome, man. That guy probably walks into every room and is like, you know what? I'm just going to shoot the basketball.
Listen. I knew I have to sell my girlfriend on like Mavs. Like, hey, here's this player over here. Here's this player over here. And then all of a sudden, Quentin Grimes comes up and she's like, oh, that's a good looking guy. And I'm like,
it happens, man.
I can already see who the favorite is.
Kevin Durant had a tweet yesterday where he said, put Joe Flacco in anywhere and he's going to hoop. That's how I feel about Quentin Grimes.
Quentin Grimes can play. I'm excited about this season. Matt, I thought we had complete basketball teams, and I'm talking about our playoff run a couple years ago, until I see the roster we have now. We have a roster that covers all kinds of bases. Jazzy and Gortman, I have no idea what that dude has, but I am excited to see we have potential youth upcoming. We have veteran savviness. We have it was bone chilling when I was at Fan Jam and the crowd is yelling, "We want Clay." The energy for this team is on next level already. And as a fan, I can't help but just ride along with the wave, man.
I didn't know that. See, I just due to Sunday, I've not really paid attention to this Fan Jam stuff. That's really fun. I wonder. So my Golden State blog writer and media friends have all but told me Klay Thompson is a bit of a basket case and a bit of a diva. But I think that the emotional elements of that swing both ways, where, when you're down, you're really down, but when you're high and you I'm sure that sort of feeling for Klay was outstanding. Because, obviously he's won multiple championships. He's come back from 2 devastating injuries. The guy knows the highs and the lows, but I'm sure like the fresh start element of this, he seems a little nervous in a lot of his media appearances, which I find kind of charming because it's not like there's just still something to prove. And I find that really appealing.
I think Klay's going to be, wonderful I think this will be wonderful for him. He's only known Golden State. Yep. So he's only known one way. And, just like any long-standing relationship that you've been with somebody, you without even thinking, you take them for granted, yep. which I think both sides did. Now, I do think he has that ego because we saw him pout, on the sideline and get a little frustrated. But this is a different team. This isn't the aging Golden State Warriors who can barely limp across the playoff line and make any noise anymore. This is a finals contending team that all we needed was a slightly more competent, THJ. And that's what we have with, I don't want to undersell it, but that's what we have. And I'll say this last thing that the media, we talk about the media and stuff, how they are so worried about our defense. They are so worried that we lost so much defense in the offseason. And to be honest with you, man, our defense is night and day better, like team-wise, because it's not this one-on-one. It's not, we can't put Klay on our best quick, offensive guard anymore. Klay's not built for that. But as a whole, if you just look at it, Klay's an upgrade from THJ on defense. Grimes is an upgrade from Green on defense. And Najee's probably a wash, to be honest with you.
A different stylistic player at the very least.
Different. But the thing is, for example, like those Kawhi Leonards, those Zions that we would have a trouble putting on, Derrick Jones Jr. on, and at the same time ask PJ Washington to guard one of the better offensive players. We now have 2 sturdy defensive guys who you don't have to be worried about being pushed around. And the last thing that I'll say is defensively, man, it's all going to be about how Kidd staggers the minutes. And that's it. And, we know Luka, if they do the same thing as last year, Luka's going to play the entire first quarter, which is fine. I don't know if they're going to do that this year, but, that's probably when you're going to see. Kyrie comes out at the 4-minute mark in the first quarter every single game. I'm expecting Grimes to come in. I'm expecting Klay to, and I don't know if you caught this, but at one of his introductory press conferences, he talked about looking forward to guarding up some of the bigger players. I think you're going to see Klay guard more 4s than you are 2s this year.
I think that's probably true. He's a big guy.
And that changes his defensive skill set because he no longer has to guard these quick. And I know
I'm chase guys around.
So when Grimes comes in the 5-minute mark and they move Clay down to the 4 and they sub in Marshall at the 3, there will be no question of defensive holes in the game because we'll be solid enough to carry it on. And after the first quarter, the Kyrie, Luka, Clay minutes will be staggered. Well, we'll have, solid enough defenders to carry us through. I'm super excited about this.
I love that we're breaking down defensive rotations after the first game. It's top notch. This is why we do it, Glenn.
Listen, I heard you say you're going to try to do a post-game show after every game, so I'm going to let you get some rest because you're going to need it because we're going to have a long season.
We're going to see, man. I hope so. All right, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, brother.
All right. Coming up, last but not least, is Mr. Green. Mr. Green, how we doing?
I'm well, Kirk. How are you, buddy?
I am all right. I'm really glad to hear that you're sticking with us despite your namesake moving on.
Oh, mate, he can only try and emulate the greatness that is me, Kirk. That's all he can try and do, Josh.
So how you doing tonight or this morning?
Good, mate. Finally got through the roughest off-season that I can possibly remember. Just dragged on and on and on and on. It's good to finally be back.
Yeah, I feel bad for not doing more. I got a different boss, and so it's like I can't do shit during my workday like I was last year. And so it's just I was doing, different shows and between that and Josh had some things pop up to where I just didn't make near as much stuff. I mean, we can talk about Mavs any time of day for as long as possible, but it's just I just didn't have the juice, and I feel a little bad for it with because it really did make the offseason go slower because I was doing less stuff. Some of that's my bad.
Well, it's good that you're finally being held accountable, Kirk. That's the main thing, mate. But look,
so what do you got for us today?
Look, the last time we had a great laugh was obviously heading into the finals. And I still just have a smile every time I think about Game 5 against Minnesota.
Sure.
Just in the way that we destroyed them, and there was no stress, and we knew that we're moving on by the end of the first quarter and all those sort of things. But I had a bit of a hot take that I thought I'd share with you, Kirk, because I'm very sick of listening to all the OKC hype already. They've always been a favourite team of mine. I really do like them, but man, I've got some bad news for you. I don't know if people realise how important Giddey was to that team. Being an Aussie, you can imagine I watch how my countrymen perform in all their teams. But when you take out a triple-double threat out of that team and you are now going to have 100% of your possessions want to be the prime ball handler to be SGA, which now leads to him always being guarded by the best defender on every team with no sort of playmaking relief in that starting 5.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be the struggle team of the year, mate, OKC. And there's a lot of people shooting their shit about how good they're going to be. And I think they're going to get a wake-up call in the first 6 games of the season on how much they miss Giddey's passing and his height.
That's a hot take. I really envy that level of take. I can see because Giddey is definitely a guy you can scheme out of the playoffs, but I do think he's a pretty interesting connecting piece for regular season games just because he's a minutes eater. You're not gonna scheme against him in a Tuesday night game in November, but he's able to play 25 minutes a game, and some of the other guys that they have, I can see. Who'd they bring in from the Bulls?
Caruso.
Caruso is one of my favorite, just lower level role players because he should have been a Maverick years and years ago. But his body is not the type that can play 82 games. His body's the type that can play 35 games and play, 18 minutes a game or whatever it is and really make a difference. But it's not the same. I do. I really like him, man. He is a dog.
You know who Caruso is? He's the equivalent to Tim Hardaway Jr. if you swap offense for defense. That's what he is, man. He'll be a net zero on that team.
Well, because he doesn't shoot enough. That was always and that was honestly why he would have fit with the Mavericks earlier in Luka's career because he didn't want to shoot. But he's actually a pretty good offensive player. He just doesn't ever take shots.
He's not a ball handler, Kirk. He's not a ball handler. So now you're going to put the ball in SGA's hands all the time. Now you're going to have the defense loading up big time on SGA. And I can tell you now that the worst signing of this offseason will be the big doofus from New York going to OKC, Hardenstein.
You're not a fan of the German signing? Interesting.
He will show his value in the first 10 games, and that value will be one of the biggest albatross contract in the league, in my opinion. 30 million
guys, though, because Chet cannot physically take 82 games playing center and win, because they got out rebounded all the time. It just didn't matter.
Dude, they signed him for 3 years, 90 million.
Sure.
That is atrocious.
Yeah, contract stuff, though, I don't know. I try not to think about it too much.
You think that's going to work well with him and Holmgren?
Kinda, and I think that it's a movable deal too.
I reckon
I just really like the Thunder, man. Like Brian's down there in the chat. He talks about Case and Wallace, the guy, the Jalen Williams, both of them, both Williamses.
Look, I like the Thunder too, man, but I reckon that they made a colossal mash meat of this offseason moves, in my opinion, and I just can't wrap my head around the national pundits just crowning them already. And it's funny because when you see in the off season, you're searching for content and you see the Locked On Thunder guy. I think he does a really good job. He gives me a laugh or two, and I like the team. Don't get me wrong, but I think those two moves, man, and getting rid of Giddey and just getting rid of Giddey and bringing in Caruso, right? It on paper you go, this is their biggest problem solved. You just don't calculate into that what Giddey was bringing to the table for that team. I'm
interested in the argument because the regular season is tough. They're just such an outlier of a team because young teams don't win, which is why, like when we kept talking about how healthy they were last year, I had somebody say to me, well, they're not going to be healthy next year. And so I asked around a little bit about this because I didn't really think about it. And he said, well, the reason you don't notice that most young teams are actually quite healthy is because most young teams suck. And so you don't think about the fact that, Team X, like let's just say the Spurs, whatever, played a lot of games. I don't know if this is true. I'm just making something up, but using it as an example. A young team might play, have a whole bunch of guys that play 65 or more games, but if they only win 25 of them, no one cares.
Look, I agree with you, but, just as a rough prediction, and the only reason I mention this is I still believe that they are one of the bigger threats to Dallas having, a home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had to put a win total plus or minus between the Mavs and OKC, where do you fall, Kirk? Just in your humble opinion when we've got preseason game 1 in the books.
I need the Mavericks to win 55 games or more. That's where I sit. They need to stop fucking around in the regular season. This is this year for this to happen. So they don't have the excuse. So, and the Thunder won 58 last year, and I don't necessarily see them like I just don't see. Is that right? I could be wrong. Let me check this out to make sure I'm not too much of an idiot.
No, I think you're on the money there.
Yeah, 23-24. Yeah, they play. No, that's Boston. Thunder won 57 games. They tied with the Nuggets. That was right. That's what it was. I just don't see them declining. I could see them winning 57 again. I understand some of the because it's like once you get to that point, there's at least 5 coin flip games a season. So it's like I maybe see like them winning 58 and the Mavericks winning 55. That sort of thing.
So you got OKC plus 3 games.
Sure, just off the top of my head, but I'm not good at this stuff.
I can't see it, mate. I can't see it, and I'll tell you why. That they will have some injuries like we had last year.
Sure.
We lost Kyrie for a handful of games. We lost Luka for a handful of games. Most of the guys were
right.
reasonably healthy outside of that, but mate, they'll get their share of it this year. And I just want to know who do you think's running that offense when SGA's off the floor?
It's fun. It's honestly Case and Wallace, but that's because I'm pretty familiar with this game. I think they'll give him the the kind of point guard duties. That's part
Case
of it.
and Wallace to Hardenstein for the missed layup. I'm going to hear that.
Wallace is a dog, man. I love that guy. He's one of the reasons that Kyrie was in such straits against this team. Oh man, they just have an annoyingly good roster. I hate how good their roster is.
I'll tell you what, I'm not looking forward to matching up with the Wolves with Randall in the lineup.
See, I don't give a shit about Randall because I just think the Mavericks as they are right now, like Randall is it's funny. We bagged on Cat for having a bad playoffs. Randall, if you go look at that man's playoff numbers, he had one of the worst 4-game series in like history for a high usage guy. Randall just, I just don't see them having any space to do anything.
I just don't like our chances of matching up well when, because Randall will assert himself in that team for sure. He will become the second most dominant ball guy on that team.
I can just see him not passing to Anthony Edwards too.
Nah, I reckon they'll hit it off. I reckon they'll be.
I think they're both the right attitude kind of guys because I think they're both kind of pretty tough. But yeah, Spaceman says Randall always destroys the Mavs, though. That's a good point. He does. Yeah. He absolutely does.
Well, the best person on the roster to take Randall is probably Gafford, and you're not putting Gafford and Lively in the same lineup. And then if you've got Gafford on Randall, then, because I think PJ's a little bit too small, he can get bumped off his spot a little bit quickly.
Maybe, but I think you throw a lot. This is way out there, but I think you throw Lively or you don't care about Rudy. I think, yeah, that's what I do. Because like Rudy just gunks up so much of what teams want, like an offensive element of that team.
Yeah. So look, Kirk, you're +3 on OKC. I'll take you on those odds, mate. I'll go +3 on the Mavs. I think there'll be a 6-game turnaround.
I just need the Mavericks to care during these doldrum games, and part of that's Luka. I looked this up, man. This infuriates me. When Luka's in the lineup, the Mavericks have a 57% win percentage for his career, regular season. When Joel Embiid is in the Sixers lineup, they have a 67% win percentage. There's no way that Joel Embiid is that much. I'm not even going to say the words out loud because I think Luka's a better player. I need more from the Mavericks in the regular season. They got to close out some of these games and stop giving stuff up.
You're going to get it this year, Kirk. There's too many hungry mouths to feed in the Mavs this year. This is going to be an absolute bloodbath in regards to if this team meshes well and everyone supports each other. You're going to see a 60+ win season out of the Mavs this year, mate. I'm confident of that.
I love it. Love the take, man. Thanks so much for kicking us off and hanging out.
No worries, brother. Great to be back and look forward to talking to you again shortly.
That's right. Okay, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out here. This has been a good time. Hour and 10 minutes for 2 shows. Not bad. I'll be back on Thursday night. We'll be hanging out after the Mavericks play the Jazz, who should be very stinky. It's probably going to be a big time Jazz Gortman show against the Utah Jazz. So let's look forward to that. Everyone be good. Go check out some of the other Mavs shows. If you're listening, please remember to give me a subscribe. Go ahead and hit that. What do you want to call it? The notification bell. I'll be trying to have a fair number of shows. You guys are great. Really love reading the comments. Shout out Brian. I see my man Spaceman. Long live organic. Ben. There's all kinds of people here in the chat. Love everyone who's been hanging out. Everybody be good. We will talk soon. Go Mavs.